We aren't even truly into Cyrodiil yet and we're already 18 minutes into this video. I believe that sets an appropriate tone for how much of a sucker for detail I can be. Another thing I'm a sucker for is this view. A starker contrast could not have been possible between the dark, dank sewer and this amazing welcome into the big wide world. The colour palette chosen for Oblivion is one of warmth and comfort, with deep greens and sun-soaked oranges making this land feel temperate and gentle. Lush grass and woodland is all around, dotted with vibrant pickable plants and fungi to be used in alchemy. Some have criticised Oblivion for having too much of a high fantasy appearance when compared to the harshness of the other Elder Scrolls games, and honestly I can see why. I disagree though, and I believe it works perfectly for Oblivion. Perhaps it's just my nostalgia overriding any artistic critique I may have had for this game, but I will shamelessly admit that I just simply don't care. This game screams comfort to me. From the northern frosts of Bruma down to the swampy outskirts in Leowyn, I love it all. This game is the purest equivalent of comfort food. I can happily run from city to city, cave to ruin, lake to mountain, and forget about the fast travel system entirely. I love to play characters with a high agility and speed stat, so traversing the world is a breeze and hasn't ever bordered on tedious for me. A little more variety in some of the landscapes wouldn't go amiss, but the rolling hills and vast meadows just hit the spot whether you're blasting across them at Mach 5 with 155 fortified speed, or taking an old mare for a slow trot. The events of the main quest do work slightly against the tranquil atmosphere of Cyrodiil, but not enough to make the world unpleasant. The world is not only beautiful, but full of life too. Not a minute goes by where you don't see something different. It could be a deer, goblin, imp, or a bandit group robbing travelling merchants. It could be a huge ruin begging to be explored, or a small settlement with an antisocial populace. Hector. Speaking of settlements, let's have a chat about the main towns throughout the game. There are 8 towns and 1 city. Every town is just as gorgeous as the wilderness and are full of character building details. It's not realistic for a medieval town to be so idyllic, but who gives a toss, this is Cyrodiil. I have 2 favourite towns in the game, Skingrad and Cheydinhal. Skingrad is a rich bastard county, with towering manors and snobbish inhabitants, but the town is safe and warm, with everyone full of wine from the local vineyards. Cheydinhal has charming Tudoresque buildings with a large pond reflecting the sunlight, or moonlight. It's also home to the Dark Brotherhood, which I'll discuss later on. Each town is populated with handcraft NPCs, all with their own voice lines. Some own shops, some work with the city guard, some are thieves, some are murderers, others beg on the streets and change accents at the wink of an eye.
I'm only asking for enough to feed me kids. Have you heard about Kvatch?
And others just stand around not doing much in particular.
Necrophilia?
They all acknowledge the player in one way or another, perhaps remarking exemplary feats you've accomplished,
Necrophilia?
or just a snarky remark, especially if they're an orc.
Annoying creature. Get lost or I'll pull your arm off.
At the time of Oblivion's release, this literally blew my mind, consequently made Oblivion feel so alive. Even though the voice acting isn't exactly gold standard, it's charming in its own imperfect way. It may sound like at this point the game can do no wrong in my eyes, and perhaps that's true. I'd rather retain my innocent childhood acceptance of something imperfect than ruin it with my cynical adult mind. Stupid brain. When interacting with these NPCs, sometimes they will quite bluntly refuse to talk to you about something, stating something to the effect that they just don't trust you. This means they don't have a high enough disposition towards you. Disposition is a measure of how buddy-buddy you are with that NPC, and when high enough can make them tell things they otherwise shouldn't, or even give you a better deal when trading goods. Q. Speechcraft minigame. This minigame is, not great. Its rules are very simple, but it's not very immersive. As you can see here, there's this conversation pie, as I like to call it, with 4 different options: admire, joke, coerce, and boast. For each persuasion attempt, you must pick each different option 1 time. The size of the slice in each quarter signifies the impact that decision will have on their disposition. 2 of the options will always improve their disposition towards you, 1 by a little and 1 by a lot. The other 2 will always decrease disposition by the same rules. Which options do what varies between different NPCs, but this rule of 2 and 2 always holds true. Hey, that rhymes. Determining which options they like or dislike comes down to a very advanced technique, honed through the ages by lip readers and psychics. Mouse over an option and see their face change. A slight smile and a big smile indicate which choices will have a positive impact, and vice versa. The small smile and the big smile indicate which choices will have a positive impact, and vice versa. Picking an option will rotate the slices clockwise by 90 degrees, and for every few seconds you're in this minigame, disposition will decay by a few points. So therein lies the challenge. Once you have the basic patterns down, however, this becomes trivially easy and is more of a chore than anything. During the later hours of a playthrough, however, once a player has amassed enough money, it's far easier just to bribe them to increase their disposition. You can bribe any NPC, even the town guards, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I'm not sure if it's ever required, but hey, Oblivion. Just a side note, fame, a statistic that increases as you perform noteworthy deeds around the place, raises everyone's disposition towards you proportional to the value of your fame. For every 10 points of fame you accrue, the base disposition increases by 3 for all NPCs. The personality attribute has a similar effect, and for every 4 points of personality you have, you'll get 1 extra disposition for all NPCs. Trading is a very simple affair, with a linear slider for bartering. The higher their disposition towards you, the higher you can push this slider, therefore they will sell lower and they will buy from you higher. Their merchant level also greatly affects this limit, as does your mercantile skill. You just need to tweak it until you find the right spot where they won't refuse a sale. If they do refuse a sale, however, their disposition towards you will drop by a point or 2, so you have to go lower to avoid another refuse. In the vanilla game, leveling your mercantile skill is based upon the number of transactions made, not the value of those transactions. This means if you wanted to sell 100 arrows and you sold them as a stack of 100 in one transaction, you'll be missing out on potentially 100 times the XP if you sold them one by one. This obviously isn't a good system, and XP should probably be calculated by the value of your sale. Some of you may be able to predict what I'm about to tell you, and you are totally right, there is a mod for this. It provides mercantile XP based on the value of the transaction rather than the number of transactions made. Awesome. It even has different levels of scaling depending on how you want to play. As I mentioned earlier, each NPC plays a role within their respective town or city. The cool thing is, this isn't just limited to them standing at a shop counter 24/7 like in some RPGs, these guys have real lives. They sleep, they eat, and they chat idly amongst themselves. The shops have set opening times, and the owner could just as easily be up to mischief after hours, or just simply in the feed bag, winding down with some Cyrodiilic brandy and a good meal. Some citizens even travel between towns, visiting friends or conducting official business. This NPC behaviour is produced by a nifty system Bethesda created called Radiant AI, which not only provides routines for the NPCs, but enables them to dynamically alter this routine based on a few factors. I said before that they like to eat. This means that they will actively hunt down food. If there is none available in their usual routine pathing, they can be found looting barrels or eating food the player may have left. Perhaps poisoned, perhaps not, that's down to you as a player. I'm not judging. The same applies to beds. However, there are some rather amusing events where if no beds are available, they will literally pull an all-nighter, night after night. Those folks in the Mages Guild are weird. Most NPCs can be killed, permanently. This can sever many questlines, so be careful where you swing that enchanted Daedric sword of 200 added fire damage in the market district of the Imperial City. There are some more generic NPCs that respawn if killed and don't do much of particular interest, such as the town guards and the guild porters. They still patrol in an immersive fashion and play a role in the game's mechanics and crime system. Characters that are vital to the plot of a questline may be tagged as essential. You can tell if a character is essential by the crown icon when you mouse over this NPC. If they're not essential, you'll just get the ordinary face icon. When reduced to 0 HP, these essential guys won't die, but they just become temporarily unconscious and ragdoll all over the floor. Some Morrowind purists believe this is the ultimate immersion breaker to have unkillable people, and claim it removes tension if you know they simply can't die. I can see where these guys are coming from, but I wholeheartedly believe the frustration of having a vital character die and having to reload a save from God knows when is leagues more frustrating than the slight hit to my immersion. Each citizen also has their own house, complete with a place to sleep, furniture, lighting and decoration. Depending on the financial class of that person, they may have a grand 3-story manor or maybe just a shack on the Imperial waterfront. The waterfront hovel player house is the best, fight me if you disagree. I have fond memories of my first proper character, which was naturally a sneaky Khajiit, similar to Mr. Bus. I just found my way into the Thieves Guild and just acquired my first fence. So naturally, I broke into every single house in Bruma and stole everything. Every shelf in every house was bare, every apple vanished. Even the entirety of the town castle was robbed blind by an unknown feline. The only evidence found was a furball on the second floor balcony. I even broke into the fence's house while he was at the pub and then sold it all back to him for a tidy profit. There's no honour amongst thieves, eh? This isn't a quest or anything, it's just something I decided to do because it was fun. Nothing is off limits here. My only wish is that the things I had stolen eventually respawned in the houses, as it's a bit strange when they continue to live there with absolutely no possessions, even the wealthy ones. This tiny nitpick aside, Cyrodiil was the most free I have ever felt in a game. If you have the right skills, you can get anywhere, take anything, and feel pretty damn good about it. The only downside about being a thief is that the pickpocketing is utterly pointless. There isn't a dedicated skill for it like there is in Skyrim, but it's instead tied to your sneak skill. But 99% of the time, pickpocketing just isn't worth the effort. Naturally, if you get caught, the town guard will come down and arrest you, either charging you a fine and confiscating all of your stolen goods, which I most certainly forfeit, or taking you in for a stint in jail. Should you decide to be put away, you'll lose some of your skills while you serve your sentence, scaling with the bounty you have in your head for the treasonous crime of picking up that fork by mistake. You always manage to smuggle in a single lockpick if you fancy making a run for it, but you'll still maintain your bounty, but you won't lose your skills. I mean, if you get caught, you could just load your last save, but come on, jail is fun you guys, just don't drop the soul gem in the showers. All in all, the world created by Bethesda is a brilliant one that still feels genuinely alive and organic even in 2019. Although we call this form of media video games, it would be remiss of me to ignore the other half of this audio-visual experience, and that is the spectacular masterwork of Jeremy Soule. If you thought I'd gushed about this game up until this point, you've seen nothing yet. Get ready, because here we go. Soule's work is some of, if not the most, truly beautiful, soul-soothing and utterly entrancing music to ever enter my ears. The elegant melodies and motifs throughout the overworld track inspire adventure and wonder to an even greater extent than the charming visuals already do. The sweeping strings are stunning when paired with the visuals of a quaint medieval town, adorned with flowers and statues, a light breeze blowing through the main street, making everything seem more regal and sophisticated. The only company as you explore that murky cave is the ominous arrangements crafted for suspense and mystery. Say you decided to turn the music all the way down. Not only would you be committing a war crime, but suddenly all life drains from this world as if someone sucked out all the colour. I previously mentioned this game screaming comfort to me, and this is what I mean. The soundtrack has been playing through the background of these videos, not just because it fits the topic of discussion, but just because I love it so dearly. Copyright claims be damned. Soule's symphonies warm my heart so much that I've used them to get through some of the bleakest and most stressful times in my entire life. The long nights and days that I spent hammering away at my university dissertation were sweetened by these harmonies on repeat, as they dulled the pain of endless hard work and gave me some much needed light at the end of the tunnel. I graduate this September, so it obviously worked. In fact, I'm listening to it right now as I write this script to keep my mind in Cyrodiil. Thank you, Jeremy Soule, for the memories and emotions I honestly didn't believe I could experience through a singular sense. You're the man. I'd buy you a beer. Or more adequately, I'd buy you some coffee. Well, thank you for watching the second part of my rose-tinted retrospective. If you've enjoyed your time here, I'd really appreciate it if you could do the YouTube usuals and thumb me up or subscribe to the Black Horse subscribe to ProEspresso Productions. If you feel like sparing this old beggar a coin, my Patreon link is in the description of this video. Part 3 will start covering the main quest. It's not only the first quest you receive, but it's obviously the centrepiece to the entire game. So get ready to meet Sean Bean and kick some Daedra ass in the next part of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.